Hello everyone and welcome to the start of my LP for Muramasa, the Demon's Blade. This series is going to start a bit differently, however, since I always found Vanillaware's company history to be really interesting, and I figured talking about them would be a great way to start off this project. The company that would become Vanillaware started from a single man, George Kamitani. Working for Capcom back in the 90s, Kamitani would eventually help out with the development of the famous beat-em-ups Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom and Alien vs. Predator. However, Kamitani felt he wouldn't be able to make his own passion projects within another company and would leave Capcom, resulting in him doing various freelance projects and eventually finding himself working on the ill-fated game Princess Crown. The development cycle for this game was plagued with bad luck. The first company that funded this game went bankrupt mid-development, with Atlus picking up the project soon afterward. After the game was released, despite decent reviews, Princess Crown sold rather poorly, with it being released at the end of the Sega Saturn's development cycle. This project would be a source of problems for Kamitani's future, but would also serve to be a base of inspiration for many of Vanillaware's projects. After roughly 5 years of unemployment, Kamitani would find himself working at Square Enix for a small project, where he would meet up with bass escape musician Hitoshi Sakimoto, who would be the main musician for future Vanillaware projects. He also met the artist Shigetake, who, alongside Kamitani's old programming friends Kentaro Onishi and Takashi Nishi, would team up to form Puraguru, the company that would eventually become Vanillaware. With the formation of Puraguru, the four-man team would begin development on Odin Sphere. However, the notoriety that came from Princess Crown's failure would plague the team, giving them a hard time securing funding for the project. Despite convincing Atlus to finally pick up the project and Vanillaware finishing it, the success of Atlus's other game at the time, Persona 3, would force the team to delay the release of Odin Sphere to avoid market cannibalization. This would result in Kamitani needing to start development on other projects just to keep the company afloat in the meantime, resulting in him borrowing over 20 million yen to fund both Grim Grimoire for Nippon Ichi Software and Muramasa the Demon's Blade for Marvelous Entertainment. Grim Grimoire was the first official game from Vanillaware, being released first in 2007 despite Odin Sphere's completion. Grim Grimoire was a very strange entity, born from the company developers sarcastically saying, "Hey, why don't we just make another StarCraft?" While I don't have any experience with the game at all, we would see the beginnings of Vanillaware's use of classic mythology and exaggerated art style and unique game mechanics within Grim Grimoire. The game wasn't much of a success, however. While it paid the bills, Grim Grimoire never really picked up even a cult following among fans of the company. Following the release of Grim Grimoire in the same year was the release of Odin Sphere. Being the passion project of the team, Odin Sphere drew a lot of inspirations from classic Norse mythologies and would draw many gameplay ideas from their previous game, Princess Crown. Odin Sphere covered 5 separate stories across a grand interconnected tale of romance, betrayal, and a device that could spell calamity for the world of Arion. Unlike Grim Grimoire, Odin Sphere would actually sell relatively well, to the point where the sales paid off Kamitani's daunting 20 million yen debt, with enough extra to provide bonuses for everyone who worked on the project. The game was praised for its rich storytelling and great audiovisual design, but would be heavily panned for its admittedly unintuitive combat mechanics and clunky menus. After the release and success of Odin Sphere, Vanillaware would then begin work on Muramasa the Demon's Blade, released in 2009. Begun conceptually at the tail end of Odin Sphere's development cycle, the game would focus on a more traditional Japanese mythos, with the legend of the famous blacksmith Sengo Muramasa as a central framework. Muramasa was a vast departure from the combat model of Odin Sphere, favoring a more fluid and non-restrictive combat system, and having a less emphasis on crafting overall to keep the game's pace at a breakneck speed. The release of Muramasa would shove Vanillaware into the limelight of the gaming world, with it receiving many high review scores along with a bevy of sales, with it being on the wildly popular Nintendo Wii at the time. Muramasa was so popular that the game would see an HD remake 5 years later on the PlayStation Vita, with an updated localization to cover the awkward one on original release, alongside a DLC pack which expanded the gameplay with 4 new characters and campaigns. Out of all the projects Vanillaware has worked on, Muramasa is most certainly their biggest success and helped to repair their reputation in the business world. As we fast forward to 2012, Vanillaware would announce the release of a new game, Dragon's Crown. This game would be George Kamitani's second passion project, one that he had been hoping to do for the longest time as a sequel to Princess Crown, and initially planned for release on the Sega Dreamcast in 1998. Dragon's Crown premiered with a very classic medieval fantasy setting and classic 2D beat-em-up combat very similar to the famous Capcom game Shadows over Mystara. which led to a lot of excitement from many old school gamers. However, the development cycle was also plagued by many gaming journalism sites chastising the company for various artistic decisions within the game. Whether these criticisms are valid or not, the game released to a monumental commercial success, effectively making triple the profits compared to their development cost, and from a shockingly low retail price of $40. While a commercial success, I personally found Dragon's Crown to be a bit lacking in some ways. While the game promoted multiplayer as a big feature, you couldn't unlock said feature until finishing the first half of the campaign, which left a really bad impression on me. The RPG mechanics also felt a bit shallow compared to Odin Sphere and Muramasa, though I'm one of those strange people that actually enjoyed Odin Sphere's mechanics. Dragon's Crown is the latest release from Vanillaware, but the 26-employee-strong company is nowhere near done with their passion projects. The developers have recently announced both an HD remake of Odin Sphere that would entirely rebuild the game engine, alongside a new beat-em-up IP centered around high-speed robot action. The future's looking interesting for these passionate developers, but for now let's start the LP proper and enjoy Muramasa the Demon's Blade, along with the DLC Genroku Legends.